This is Luigi, one of the very first hidden characters in Smash 64, the original Smash clone character starting out as a clone of Mario, and then after every iteration of the character was made into his own unique thing. But here's the thing about Luigi though, he's an example of an actual mid-tier melee character that doesn't significantly get buffed during the transition to PM and P+. We will leave this conversation at the end of the video, so make sure to stay tuned through the end. You wanna know something interesting? Luigi was actually considered a top 9 character back on Melee's very first tier list. Yes, that tier list, no, your eyes do not deceive you, where Mario and Zelda are ranked 5 and 6 in the game. Over time, people started to realize the faults of Luigi, and the level of skill in the early 2000s was pretty low. Luigi in Melee is a very weird character. He plays very unconventionally compared to the other characters in the cast. He has the longest wave dash in the game, which makes his neutral possibly one of the most unique neutrals in the game. He's essentially a slip and slide the character. If you like gliding around like a Swiffer jet, Luigi's your guy. While he isn't a bad character, he is currently ranked in the B- tier, 12 out of 26, which isn't terrible, but he still has flaws that keep him out of being a top 8 character in the meta, and those are arguably the more common characters and the better characters the higher you get on the tier list respectively. Luigi is sort of floaty. He has some really fast and powerful aerials that have low any lag, and he has the lowest traction in the game, which equates to his long wave dash and strange movement. While these are great positives to the character, the negatives is he has a lack of approaching tools outside of his wave dash due to his poor range and lack of disjoints. Also a combination with a high short hop and low fall speed, giving him a pretty terrible shuffle. TLDR, Luigi has some great combo abilities when he's able to scrap, but if his opponents cheese him and play around his wave dash, it can significantly impact the character. Reason 1 is his poor range. While you might not think Luigi is a character that has terrible range, his options are pretty slow, like his fireballs for example, which don't even travel that far across the stage. Match that with his really high jump height, so he isn't able to short hop and use his projectile that fast compared to characters like Mario or even Falco's lasers especially. Without his fireball, Luigi is basically made to scrap, and that's where he does best. His grab range is actually pretty bad, similar to characters like Mario and Dr. Mario, and while his actual grabs are pretty good, he can combo characters pretty well with moves like his up throw and down throw. However, it's harder to get to these points when his actual range on his grab is pretty lackluster. He has options like his neutral air, which are extremely fast options for escaping combos. Sometimes people like to call him Nair the character because if you throw him, he's probably going to hit you with his Nair. It's a really good Nair though, just being real. His down B is a great grounded tool as it goes really fast horizontally compared to Mario's. However, if a player plays a bit more campy, like platform camping or just waiting for Luigi to flub an approach, you can start to see the flaws of the character. And Luigi is a great character at breaking out of combos, resetting the neutral to go to his favor. That's one of the best positives of the character. He has some defensive options that can be pretty beneficial to him, but outside of his poor range, it can lend to him being taken advantage of. Reason 2 being his bad recovery. Surprise, surprise, another character in Melee has a bad recovery. Luigi's recovery is pretty bad. In line with other mid to low tier characters, Luigi's recovery leaves a lot to be desired. While his side B can be a decent option at recovering horizontally, it's still overall slow and very predictable. But it is pretty hype when you get a misfire that can randomly be clutch in a match, so there is that. His up B is still a major issue as well, as it doesn't go that high, and it's also just as predictable as his side B. It's the same debate that I stated in my previous video with Mario. Would you rather have multiple average recovery options that are maybe pretty decent but have some flaws, or have one that is just really good and defined? When Luigi is recovering, most people can expect to either side B or up B to come out, and you can simply cover that option, and Luigi really doesn't have a lot to do to come back on stage after that, as he doesn't even have a wall jump like Mario does. Reason 3, Luigi's speed. Despite Luigi having the longest wave dashes in the game, he isn't necessarily very fast. Without his wave dash, he doesn't really have a lot of approach options. Combine that with also his pretty lackluster range and middling speed, Luigi can get overall beat by a lot of heavy projectile users like Falco, for example. While he does have a decent ability to take control of more grounded stages, when the higher tier characters play around found their own positives and slow things down, Luigi's lackluster speed and approach options start to show. Luigi versus the rest of the cast. The thing about Luigi is he's constantly compared to his brother and Dr. Brother. They land pretty close on the melee tier list and they share similar attributes. Fireballs, similar down Bs, while Luigi tends to be a little bit more weirder and have his own unique moves compared to Mario. All three of them shift periodically between the three of them on the melee tier list, and at some points Dr. Mario is considered the best. Sometimes it's Luigi. Back in the day, people thought Mario was top 6. Yeah, different time for sure. As of right now, Luigi is considered the best of the three, but that isn't really saying a lot when in melee you gotta face the fact that there's a lot of matchups that are usually unfavorable for Luigi. Not only that, but the Mario Bros are usually outclassed by Sheik, who fills a similar niche to them but doesn't lack in the range department like Luigi does. So Sheik is generally gonna have better range, better grab confirms, stronger moves, and kind of fills that same grappler archetype that Luigi kind of has in a sense but doesn't necessarily fulfill. Overall, Luigi is a decent mid-tier character that is mostly played by a smaller community of players. That's why he is currently ranked higher than Mario and Dr. Mario, because they have pushed Luigi to higher heights in the meta. So congrats to all the Luigi mains out there. I'm low-key rooting for the underdog Luigi if I ever see one in bracket because he's actually pretty cool. However, being a mid-tier in melee does mean that you're normally going to struggle against higher tiered characters. Although unlike most other low to mid-tier characters, Luigi does have options to deal with some of them. Luigi can struggle against characters like Sheik, the Space Animals, Marth, Jigglypuff, just to name a few. Mainly because these characters have considerable more range than Luigi. They're good at punishing his lack of approach options and recovery, so on and so forth. Luigi mostly has a losing matchup against most of the characters that are higher than him in the melee meta.
Oh yeah!
Luigi is an interesting case in Project M. He definitely was buffed during the transition to Melee and PM, but really how many buffs you get as a character is really important in the meta. Some characters get completely different movesets, new moves, etc., while others mainly stay the same and get quality of life changes. So really Luigi was buffed during the transitions, but the amount of buffs is important when identifying which characters are truly the best in the meta. In the initial updates of Project M, he was ranked as a C tier character, which is a drop, but still isn't terrible. Stay tuned because we'll get to his more recent placements near the end. He's still a middleweight floatier character, a great grounded character as well, has good scrapping abilities, still having one of the best wave dashes in the game. He's still got some great tools like his trusty nair, one of his best moves at breaking out of combos is still there. When in doubt, nair is Luigi. But kidding, hold that thought on his nair though. His recovery was buffed during the transition. His up B goes significantly higher than it previously did in Melee, making it a great recovery tool. His fireballs travel much faster in speed, and you now have the ability to hold a misfire, which is something you couldn't do in Melee or Brawl. Luigi is now guaranteed to misfire once at least every 8 times of its usage. Think of it as sort of a revolver now. Luigi's down B can now be used as a recovery tool when mashed, similar to Mario's. Additionally, you can use it as a fast grounded option that covers a lot of space. Down tilt deals more damage. In earlier updates, it was mostly a joke move, but now it sort of does just a lot of damage. It's less of a joke move. Back throw deals more damage. His throws maintain his wave dash momentum, which means that can make his throws a little bit more deadly overall. His down taunt no longer is a meteor smash, but a spike, which is actually a buff to the move. A majority of his aerials have less ending lag and can cancel out of much quicker. He overall stays in line with the soul of the character from Melee and bits of Brawl as well. Luigi was seen as roughly a mid-tier character in Project M 3.6's meta, landing in the C tier. Then during the transition to Project Plus, Luigi was actually given nerfs, which, yeah, surprise, surprise. Nair received its biggest nerf out of all of his moves, losing its hitbox size and overall knockback. This was most likely done to try and take away from Luigi's amazing combo breaking ability and Nair randomly KOing really early off the top. Grounded up special has less aerial drift, making it slightly more risky when missed. Forward air, it has received a slight knockback nerf as well, but it did receive some landing lag compensation. He did receive a pretty big buff to his his dash attack, which now feels like a complete move now. This was an issue with his dash attack since Smash 64, but yay, his dash attack now works now, guys. However, despite this buff, this changes not a lot for Luigi in general with his overall viability. And overall, Luigi didn't really get changed that marginally much compared to other characters during the transition to Project Plus, especially. Like, for example, characters like Pit or Kirby or Bowser. Luigi still has some of the same flaws that he has in Melee, and that's mostly just by design of the character at this point. So by no means is he a bad character, but on Project Plus's most recent tier list, he is currently ranked as the 3rd worst character in the game. Doesn't mean he's a bad character by any way. This is just a drop from his previous mid-tier ranking in Melee and PM's earlier updates. This is mostly because the roster in Project Plus is extremely close viability-wise. Any small buff or nerf can drastically change their viability by a couple spots. That also means that any new rising star with any character in the meta, they can also change their placement as well. So Luigi's viability could rise if people start to play him and reach higher heights with the character in the future, but his overall placement at the moment has to do with some of the nerfs that he received and the lack of Luigi mains placing really high with him in tournaments at the moment. But despite all that, he is still considered buffed compared to Melee and Brawl. And there still is some good Luigi mains in Project Plus, so shoutouts to them as well. It mainly is because of Project Plus's power creep is so high, and every character is competitively viable on some level. So who knows where Luigi could lie in the future? Time will certainly tell. Alright, you guys, if you guys liked the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys would like to get content early, there is a Patreon down below. Thank you to all my patrons. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. If you guys want to get content early and also be part of the Discord community, then there's a link down below. Also, I stream during the weekends, so if you guys want to come through on those weekend streams, check out those as well. Alright, you guys, thank you very much. Have a good one, and peace out.